What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. This is a series of unfortunate events, Season 2, Episode 3, the Ersatz Elevator Part 1. So, this one was better. The one issue I'm still having is the humor. It's gotten better, but it's still not completely solid throughout. Um, the best way I can describe it is Mr. Poe is a good example of it, because there are some times when he does deliver a funny line, but there's a lot of it where he's just not as funny. It just depends on the scene. Like the scene where he talks to Jacqueline and she's doing all this secret spy stuff by just climbing under her desk and he's just like, "Oh yes, this is normal for secretaries." Like that some of his I guess what's the word? Like his ignorance to what she's doing, like some of that is very funny, but then there are other moments where his coughing can get a little kind of annoying. The scene where he's trying to take off the parachute thing and he just like is falling over, like I don't know, it feels like sometimes he's trying too hard to be funny, and then there are other times where he's just kind of very subtly funny. And that's kind of how a lot of this episode goes. There are some moments that are very subtle and very clever, and then there are some that are over the top goofy and they're just not as fun. I think the only over the top goofy thing that got me to laugh was, of course, the big musical number at the end of it, and that's just because it was well done. I enjoyed all the little things that he was doing. Of course, I'm pretty sure, because I have a friend who's a magician, and I'm pretty sure he's told me before that Neil Patrick Harris can also do magic. So there were some moments where it felt like he was implying some of his magician tricks, and the sleight of hand that he's able to do. He was applying that to the whole song number, and on top of that, I mean, he can sing and dance as well. So he's putting all of this into this whole number, and it was over the top, but I enjoyed it because it was the right kind of over the top for the moment. I don't know. It was just I don't exactly know why this worked and some of the other over the top moments don't. One thing I will say that did get better though in this one is I thought Larry was much better in this, because in the last couple episodes that he was in, I don't know, he was okay, but there were some moments where it didn't really feel like he was that funny, even though it seemed like they were trying to show us, "Oh, this is hilarious, guys, you should be laughing," because they did it for quite a while. And this one, it was perfect. Like him being sort of the one in control of the situation and forcing Count Olaf to sit down, and all of his moments where he's like repeating the word salmon over and over again just to really like drive it in, like, "Oh, you get to have all of this salmon." And the one that really got me, because he's already showing how long they're dragging this out just to give the agents time, because he so cleverly spelled it out to the kids, which I will admit it did make me laugh, because the fact that the adults didn't catch on, even though he's very obviously telling them something secretive. But yeah, he's dragging this whole thing out, and then he brings out that fish. He's like, "Now I will pour it very slowly from this," as if it's vomiting up all of this stuff. Just the way it comes out too, and they hold on the shot. I'm like, okay, that did make me laugh, because it was just the good visual humor that went with it too. So overall, the jokes got better, and Jacques Snicket, I think, also is still a good character, and I hope he sticks around for a few episodes. I assume at some point he's going to go away, because the way that Lemony Snicket talked about him in the last episode, it sounds like he's gone. And of course, Lemony Snicket is telling all of these stories from, hindsight. So he's already knows what all happened, and he knows the outcome of all of this. So I'm guessing the way he was talking about him, it sounds like his brother's gone. So I assume he's probably going to die at some point. I hope it's not soon. It'll probably be by the end of this season more than likely, but I hope he sticks around for the next few episodes, because he is a lot of fun to watch. Like, just the way he delivers his lines, I don't exactly know how to describe it, but it's kind of that old school sort of fast talking with a little bit of charisma in his voice. It really works for him, and him picking up Olivia off the street and I guess inducting her into the VFD, and now they're working together. Some of the lines they had between each other too were pretty funny. Like, hopefully we'll get lucky in the penthouse. Just that was well done because it's again, it knows when to let the moment hold and when to kind of move on to the next joke more often in this episode than it did in the past ones. And then the other one, just the jokes that made me laugh are coming to mind now. The other one that really got me, because again, a very subtle joke, but they're talking about what's in and what's out because that is something that Esme and Jerome are very into. Um, just oh yes, this place has been in ever since that last one. Oh yes, sliced bread. Just the subtle little the best thing since sliced bread joke thrown in there. Not everybody's gonna catch it. Not everybody's gonna find it funny, but I appreciated like the clever little play on words there because I'm a pun guy. But yeah, overall, I mean, as far as the story is concerned, it's playing out very much like the book because I did go and look up the plot synopsis for this book as well since it's been so long. And honestly, that's probably something I'll do a bit of because I don't want to just like read through everything and be like, oh yes, now this is gonna happen and now this is gonna happen. But I do want to see how much are they following from the books and what are they sort of leaving out here and there. And I will say there is one thing that I do remember, and it's something that I actually remembered even before I looked up the plot synopsis about one of the characters. And based on this first episode, it doesn't feel like they're going to do this plot twist with this character. But I guess we'll see in the next episode whether they go through with it or not. But it just doesn't feel like that's what it's leading to at the moment. So if they still do it, I will have some problems with this episode because of what I know for the future. It doesn't feel like they're doing a good job at hinting toward it. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But all in all, yeah, ends with them finding the Quagmires. And so, well, I guess we'll see what happens next. On to the next episode. See you there. And now part 2 of the Ersatz elevator. And it's pretty goofy. But I think something about this goofiness just felt like it fit in a lot more with how the tone of the episode was going. Because by the time we get to the end of this, you've had Sunny climbing up an elevator shaft, tricking the hook-handed man into being outside the room, and then tricking him into letting her go back down with what they needed to get out by just giving him a soda. Meanwhile, Olaf and Esme don't notice Sunny as they're dancing around the room and she's just walking casually right through it all. So by the time you get to the auction, you're not even questioning as people are just randomly jumping in and throwing out numbers for their bids, and that Sunny made apparently enough money working as... Which... Was that part of the book? That does feel like it would be part of the book as well. Like, oh no, she actually has some money from working as, the assistant to Vice Principal Nero, and that's what she uses to bid. That sounds like it might have been from the book. I could be wrong about that, though. But yeah, I mean, overall, it ended very goofily, but I had much more fun with this, and it felt much more natural with everything in the show as well. Like, the dark elements are still in there, but they mesh much better in this episode than I feel like they have done in the past few. So yeah, overall, I had a lot of fun with that ending. Jacques Snicket and Olivia are still a lot of fun together. They make a fun like duo, tracking down Olaf and his compatriots and all of this stuff. So it's pretty fun there. And then of course, Larry and Jacqueline as well are both very good at playing off of each other and working together. So they got two basically couples that are working together. I don't. Olivia and Jacques might have something together, but Jacqueline and Larry I don't really think are a romantic thing. But they tend to work together a lot, which they're very entertaining as an adventuring duo. So, but yeah, a couple of things to talk about though. First of all, as far as Esme is concerned, that was the one thing that I did remember is that she ended up working with Count Olaf in the end. And that she was actually aware of it the whole time of what Olaf was doing to the kids. I remember that from the books. And as I'm watching that first episode, the question was, why is she constantly like, clearly this is not what Olaf wants. If she were actually helping him, it feels like she would be a lot more, oh no, let's eat here, okay with basically whatever he was doing. Now, I guess you could make the argument that, oh, excuse me, even though she was working with him, she still very much cares about her appearance and what's in and what's out. I guess you could make that argument that, oh, she didn't want to go to Olaf's restaurant because it wasn't in at the time, and so he had to change it to being in for her to agree to go there. But at the same time, it still doesn't really feel like, as he's basically squandering, trying to get the Baudelaires where he needs them to be and trap them, it doesn't really feel like she was helping him at all in the first episode, and then all of a sudden she is at the beginning of the second episode. So it kind of feels like it was done more for just, I guess, oh, surprise, gotcha. And maybe in the books it was the same way, where she didn't really appear helpful for Olaf in the first part, and then once she's revealed as his helper, suddenly now she's more helpful to him. Um, but yeah, definitely that's something of a plot hole in the first one, which again I guess you can explain away, but it doesn't really appease my nitpicking side. I'm just like, no, there were some things that I feel like she could have done to help out in that first episode that she really didn't. It felt like she wasn't really on his side until now. But the other thing to talk about too is, again, this mystery that they're bringing up. And yeah, I don't really remember a lot of the ins and outs of VFD and Lemony Snicket and all of this stuff when it was originally, written in the books. But to hear that all of this starts from, I guess, Beatrice betraying Esme, and I guess they had some sort of friendship, and they stole her sugar bowl, it sounds like. I don't know. I'm curious to see if they're going to really give us the whole story of what happened and what VFD really is and who the parents were and why Olaf started doing all this stuff. It feels like they're really giving us a lot of information right now, but it's a lot of bits and pieces that aren't connected. And I don't know. I'm definitely interested in seeing more about it because it's not something that I really remember being in the books. So it's something new, and that's honestly, when you think about remakes or retellings or anything like that, most of the time either they do something that's completely different, which is not good because then you're like, well, that's not what I came here to see, or they do something that's too similar, and you're just like, well, why even do a remake then if you're not going to change anything, if you're not going to update it anyway? So to see that they're basically going based off the books, they're telling the story pretty much almost exactly from the books, but they're giving us more of the mystery and they're showing us what's going on behind the scenes with VFD. I like that change, and it's something that it took me a little while to really feel that and feel like, okay, yeah, I don't mind seeing more of this, because I am kind of a purist sometimes. I'm like, no, if you're going to tell something from the books, you better tell it exactly. So if you make changes from the books, sometimes it does sort of throw me off a little bit. But I like the fact that they are giving us something different. They're really trying to dig more into what is this secret organization and what are they trying to do, what are the Baudelaires, like how are they involved in it, and all of that stuff. So the only other thing to talk about, and this is something that I just noticed for this episode, maybe they've been doing it the whole time and I just now noticed, but now I'm curious to go back and see if this is true. But it's interesting, the theme song, right? I enjoyed the theme song. It's a very little catchy tune to get us started with some dark elements and some upbeat elements as well. And of course, Neil Patrick Harris singing the whole thing. But one thing I didn't notice until now is in the first part, when we don't know, who Count Olaf is going to be, what his essentially secret identity or his costume character, his character would probably be the best term for this, who he's going to be. Basically, the first time he sings through it, he sings through it just normal, almost like it is Count Olaf singing about the events you're about to hear or see. And then in the second part, he's saying what the Baudelaires are about to go through, like basically the synopsis or the quick summary of the book. He sings that part in the second part as Gunther. So has he been doing that the whole time, where the first part he just sings it as himself, and then the second part he sings that little part as the character he's pretending to be? If so, that's pretty clever, because it does sort of like give something a little different every single time. I mean, already the fact that they, the whole look away, that whole part thing doesn't change. But every episode, essentially, you do get something different as far as they give you a brief summary of what you're about to see. I've already liked that, but now that little extra bit of like, oh, now there's something even more interesting because every episode you even get maybe a different version of him singing it. It's kind of cool. I don't know, just something little I noticed that I wanted to comment on. But yeah, I mean, overall, a good episode, probably my favorite so far this season. And next we're heading into The Vile Village, which I do remember disliking that book the most, not because it was poorly written, but just because I remember being very frustrated by the people there. Because I even remember like when I'd heard the town was called VFD, I was like, oh, we're gonna get some serious answers here for what VFD is. And this is me as a kid not realizing, no, they're not gonna give you exactly what you think you're getting. And then finding out they had nothing to do, I think, with the actual group VFD. It was just a coincidence. And again, the people there, I just remember being really kind of obnoxious and overly mean and misunderstanding. And yeah, I don't remember all of the events. I just remember at one point the kids end up in jail. Um, but that's about all I remember. So we'll see how they do it here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So that's it for me for these two. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these two episodes? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future series of unfortunate events reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.